Hello, everyone. So, we are heading our next chapter, which is by Ahmedabad on how I became a Scrum Master by Dhaval Patel. He's a Scrum Master at SAP Global. Just before we proceed, let me quickly thank our founding sponsor, Innovation Roots. It is a leading consulting and training service provider helping organizations to achieve business agility and beyond. It is one of the leaders and pioneers of niche publishing services and is well known for content collaboration with global thought leaders, authors, and creators. For more details, you may refer to www.innovationroots.com. I would also want to thank our sponsor, Agile. Agile is a product offering from Tata Consultancy Limited. It is a purely cloud-based enterprise agile planning tool along with DevOps capabilities. Enterprises can use Agile to adopt agile practices or scale across multiple Scrum and Kanban teams using enterprise scaling frameworks such as SAFe, Disciplined Agile, Less, and more. You can try out Gile for free up to 20 users for 30 days by signing up at gile.io, or you may reach out to us for more inquiries or exclusive product demos. Check out the Gile page on Agile Network India website for more information, and the link is posted on the chat box as well. Quick do's and don'ts for all our participants. Request you all to join the event 5 minutes before the start time. Use high quality speakers or headphones for better sound quality. I request you all to keep your microphones muted and videos disabled as this may cause disturbance and bandwidth issues. Questions will be taken via chat box. Request you to enter your questions in the chat box, and at the end of the session, the facilitator or moderator will help and read out few questions to the speaker as per the time availability. I recommend you all to fill in the feedback form for the event after the event to help us understand more about the event management. We appreciate your cooperation. So with no further delay, let me call upon Nidhi and Dhaval on microphone and the webcam. Over to you, Nidhi.
Okay, hello everyone. I hope everyone can see me and can hear me as well. So, thanks everyone for joining in today. We are here to talk about a journey of a Mr. Dhaval Patel about how he became a Scrum Master. So, the Agile journey is very interesting. Like it's been almost 20 years. The Agile has been popularized over the software and now in the all other industries as well. So mainly when we see the Agile framework, we had the all existing roles like a tester, a developer, a UX. There were two new roles which were being introduced. It was one was the product owner and the second was the Scrum Master. So all other roles had their responsibilities, but the Scrum Master role is something which I see from my side is like it comes with the lots of responsibility. So let's see with Mr. Dhaval Patel, who has a very good experience overall, and let's see his insight about this role and his takeaway from this role. uh, Dhaval, it's all on you now.
Thank you, Nidhi. Thanks for setting up the stage. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you are all doing great. All right, so let's get started. Uh, Quick look at the agenda. So I'll be talking about my IT journey so far. Then I'll talk about my evolution as a Scrum Master. I'll speak about some of the enablers for my journey as a Scrum Master. Also give you a glimpse of how my day in Scrum Master role look like. Then we'll talk about some of the attributes of great Scrum Masters, and then finally we'll try to answer this question: Are you good? Are you a good fit for the Scrum Master role? So let's get started. So I have around 17 years of IT experience, out of which I have been working on agile methodologies for last 5 years. However, my IT dream started when I was in high school. So right after high school, I did engineering in information technology, and I started my professional career as a software developer. I worked on multiple projects on different domains with different multinational clients and grew to a technology lead role, which eventually led me to a project manager role. Around 4 years back, I decided to get away from project manager and become a scrum master. At that time, I hardly knew what a scrum master role was all about, right? I did some online research. I spoke to a friend of mine who was a agile coach. I uh, I mean, spoke to a few more experts in the agile world, and then made up my mind, and it all felt like a good decision. But Nowadays I see this question on internet. I also get this question often from fellow colleagues saying that I'm currently a tech lead, or I'm currently a QA lead or a project manager, and I want to become a scrum master. Where do I start? Right. So every time I get this question, I try to answer it personally, mainly because apart from community help, I feel that reflecting on one's own journey is a great practice of retrospection. I always learn something just by sharing my story, right? So I'm just going to share my journey so far with you. So before I become a Scrum Master, based on whatever I read, whatever I heard, based on some of the keywords, right? This is what I used to think like a Scrum Master is. Something like a Scrum police who has a stick and then who makes sure that everybody follows the Scrum rules, or he's like a superhero who has superpowers to make the self-organizing teams and then making sure that teams are productive, right? So with some superpower, or he's more like a secretary or a scribe, right, who just um, sends meeting invites or takes notes and stuff like that, right? Or probably admin who make sure that the Jira boards are created, Jira or some other tool, but yeah, boards are created, tasks are created, and stuff like that. But as I became a Scrum Master, I spent time in that role. This picture completely got changed, and in some time you will know how. So, if I have to talk about my evolution as a Scrum Master, I can put that into four phases and a pre-phase. So pre-phase is the preparation phase wherein I did some online research. I talked to the subject matter experts to understand what is Agile, what is Scrum Master, what do they do, and this was the phase where I was trying to gather some more information around this as a career option and make up my mind. Right. I also did take the Scrum Master training because training is extremely important to set up the right foundation. You have to understand uh, the methodology and the principles, right? So in this phase, this is what I did, and once I was ready mentally, I started looking out for opportunity, and then starts the Scrum Master journey. The first phase is something which I call it as a Scrum buddy. So I joined a team where the team already had a Scrum Master and he was leaving the organization. So I had few weeks of transition, right? So in this phase, I was more like a pseudo Scrum Master. I was not actively playing a role of a Scrum Master. I was just helping the team doing some operational tasks like scheduling meetings or taking notes. And whatever observations I used to have, I used to note it down and then talk to the Scrum Master, discuss on whatever I used to kind of suggest, and then get his idea and stuff like that, right? So, uh, I mean, in this first phase, my contribution to the Scrum team was not much productive, right? It was more of a buddy helping the existing Scrum Master. Then comes the second phase. The Scrum Master was gone, and I was the Scrum Master, designated Scrum Master for the team. So, because of my prior experience, I kind of took the supervisor role, right? I mean, uh, I started taking status from the team and then reporting to the senior management, and I was doing a lot of. Uh, I mean, I was doing overdoing a lot of things. Like as soon as a bug was raised, before even the developer looks at the bug, I used to gather all the information from myself, from QA, and because I had the technical background, I at times also used to go to the code and find out possible causes of the bugs and stuff like that. Also, from the other front, like as soon as the feature or a story is ready for testing, I used to do some self-testing from my side even before the QA does that, and used to report the bugs. And this was just to make sure that I was so obsessed with the new role of Scrum Master, and make I was in a situation wherein I did not want my team to fail or have a spillover. But then The downside was I was not letting my team become a self-organizing team, right? I started creating a lot of dependencies on myself. I soon realized that and then took corrective actions. So with time, I gradually matured in that role and become the actual Scrum Master of the team. I mean, not for the namesake, but actual Scrum Master who performs for the team, which is what I called is my third phase. So here I started focusing on removing the impediments and building the healthy team environment, right? I started explaining the agile principles and scrum values to the team, whatever ceremonies we are following, why we are following, started explaining that to the team. So in this phase my contribution was mainly towards my team, and that's why I call it, like, I mean, I have separated that as a third phase. So I was addressing the cross team dependency and stuff like that along with the other stuff. And then comes the final phase wherein I call it as agile coach. This is not the agile coach designation or the agile coaches you see in the agile world, but just a phase of the journey where I started acting like a coach to my team and started consulting on the agile principles to the team. And I also moved beyond my team, started helping the organization. So we do have a community of practice COPs in our organization. So I started contributing in those COPs. And as I grew in this role, I started helping the junior Scrum Master who have recently joined or who are struggling with their new roles and responsibilities, right? So my contribution was I mean, beyond my team. So that's why I put it as the fourth phase. Now based on your situation or the other organization situation, there could be 3 or 5 phases, but the idea here was to kind of uh, just highlight that okay, everybody goes through a journey. Okay, it's not that you join as a scrum master and you become a super successful scrum master the next day. So if you are in any of these phases, do not worry. I think with the right mindset, you will uh, you will continuously learn and grow in your journey. All right, so let's move on and talk about the enablers uh, which helped me in my scrum master journey, right? First and foremost, changing the thought process. Because I came from the traditional project management background, it was important for me to change the thought process. I had to start thinking like a scrum master, not like a project manager. Just to give you an example, when a project manager goes on a long leave, the project team starts getting impacted, right? Because project manager is involved in a lot of things in a way that he or she takes full charge of those things, and creates a lot of dependencies and stuff like that. But on the other hand, the scrum masters builds self-managing teams. So if a scrum master goes on a long leave, the team manages to not fail, to continue and deliver, right? So I would say first and foremost, change in thought process that has to be done to become a successful scrum master. Next important aspect is trainings and certification. So training helps to bring paradigm shift in the way you look at agile, the way you look at the role. And when it comes to gaining knowledge, no I mean, no matter how much self study you do, it doesn't match with the great training given by good trainers, right? Very important. Third is learning and sharing. So you might have heard about this Benjamin Franklin's famous quote, tell me and I forget, teach me and I remember, involve me and I learn, right? So when you get involved, you learn, and you learn for a long time, you do not forget. So uh, participating in COPs if you have any, or the online resources or online meetups like Agile Network India, um, reading blogs on scrum.org or any other forums, wherein you can learn from others and where you can share your situations and uh, get feedback from others. Very helpful. I found it personally very helpful. The next is using value focused metrics. Now, the actual metrics could be different as per the different industry, but metrics helps to articulate the business values that as a team we achieve, right? And it because it's quantifiable, it also helps you to strive for the continuous improvement. So, I mean, just to give you an example, we follow some of the flow-based metrics. One of the metrics I can think of is flow efficiency, right? Uh, the benefit of the flow-based metrics is to, I mean, the smoother, the continuous the flow is, uh, the better predictable your team is. Okay, that's how it is interpreted, or that's how the business value is articulated from that. So say for example, a task has taken 5 days to get completed, but actual work is of 2 days. Say for example, a developer has worked for a day and a QA has done testing for another day, but rest of the 3 days were mainly because of the wastage. uh, Say for example, the dev was not ready to take up the task, or once the task was ready, QA was not ready because he or she was working on something else, or in between, the code was waiting for approval, or before it goes to the code base and stuff like that. So uh, 2 days of effort out of 5 days of schedule, and the flow efficiency for this particular example would be 2 by 5, which is like 40%. So as soon as you put this across the table, teams starts discussing on how we can improve, right? Team starts thinking about how we can reduce those 3 days. So very helpful. I mean, again, based on the industry, the metrics could be different, but good to have the metrics and then talk on those metrics terms, right? Next is being brave and introducing gradual improvements. Now, just to give you a little background, when I joined the team, I had a team of people who were working in that product for a long time, I would say like 7 8 years, who had created that product from scratch, who had good grip on all the features of that product, absolute control on the knowledge, right? I was the one who joined as a fresher for that product. A lot of developers were hiring designation and experience than I had, right? So, I mean, it was a little different situation wherein I was new and I had some observation. So, as a Scrum Master, you will start sensing things which are not going right, or you would have some suggestion to share with the team, but you might think of a lot of other things. But as a Scrum Master, you have to kind of talk to people, share the feedback, uh, share the suggestions, bring up the improvements, right? So that's the being brave part, and introducing gradual improvements. So I mean, one of the mistake I made in my early Scrum Master career was when I joined the team, I was like, okay, I'm the Scrum Master, I can give them all the feedbacks and they'll have to change it, right? I was in that managerial phase wherein I give them 1 2 3 4 and they do it. But then the problem with that is once you start putting a lot of things together, you will start getting resistance, right? People will think like, okay, so this guy, I mean, looks like whatever we are doing is not good, and this guy wants to change everything, right? So again, we have to introduce changes, but gradually in and slowly. So that was another learning from my early Scrum Master phase, wherein I did a lot of things together and then realized that, and then the way I did later on was identify one thing that I wanted to try out every 1 or 2 sprints, not more than that. Last but not the least, continuously inspect and adapt. So just like the Scrum teams, they do retrospection. We as a Scrum Master also need to do introspection for ourselves. And whatever feedback we get from within the team, from the stakeholders, from other members, we have to adapt accordingly. So I mean, these were the enablers for my Scrum Master journey. And I would say it was a natural transition for me to become a Scrum Master, mainly because of two reasons. One is, instead of working as a individual person who works in a silo, I always like to work as a team, in a team, right? uh, so that was one, and the second was, I always believed in empowering the team instead of managing them. So I mean, because of these reasons, it was more like a natural uh, transition for me to become a Scrum Master. Now, when it comes to what a Scrum Master, what does a Scrum Master do, right? I guess everybody has some sort of perception, no matter whether they know Scrum or not. They would have some perception that this is what Scrum Master does. And I mean, even though I took this from internet, some of this actually has happened to me, right? I mean, as you know, Scrum, the term has come from the rugby game, but this one actually happened to me. So I used to post a lot of articles or share a lot of articles on LinkedIn regarding Scrum Master. And one of my friend who is from a non-engineering, non-IT background, he actually is in a manufacturing industry. He was like, "What Scrum Master? What are you talking about? This master every time, right? Are you like a ring master of your team or what?" Right? So everybody, I mean, has a different perception of a Scrum, what a Scrum Master is. And I'm sure you know who Ken Schwaber is, right? One of the uh, uh, one of the person who came up with the initial version of the Scrum framework and the Agile Manifesto. But as a Scrum Master, I mean, what I really do is like this little guy, right? I mean, not playing game, but it's more like this game wherein something pops up from this hole and then you just hit that hole, right? And as soon as you do that, something else will come from the other hole and you will run and fix that, right? So how does a day in my Scrum Master's life look like? um, I start my day with an open mind, and I try to keep some empty slots in my calendar. Okay, I join Scrum team as an active listener and observer. I pay attention to what is being said and what is not being said. Many a times I do ask questions just to make sure that everybody's on the same page, even though I know the answer. Just so that if somebody has question and they are not raising up to cover that aspect, I ask questions to create this psychological safety and the environment of trust. I spend a lot of effort talking to people individually, knowing their concerns, acting on that, right? um, I put a lot of effort in creating repo within and outside the team. So it's not that just those 15 minutes of daily scrum is when I talk to team, uh, and that's it, right? So I diligently spend time and effort to create the repo within and outside the team, because without repo you cannot influence, right? I uh, regularly work with the PO to make sure that the backlog is in good shape and is up to date. I ponder on how my team is doing. Are they taking decisions as a team? Um, I mean, are there any conflicts being developed within the team? And if there are any conflicts coming up, are they able to resolve it by themselves or not? Right. I pay utmost attention to make sure that I am not biased towards anyone. Classic example, dev versus QA, right? You might have seen that in multiple projects. Uh, that comes up, that little rough comes up between dev and QA, and if you are using one set of words, say for example, whenever a bug is raised, uh, you use the same kind of stance, or whenever a bug was missed you raise the same kind of stance, you might be portraying bias. Make sure that I'm not biased. I enable my teams by removing impediments and then resolving the dependencies. uh, I take all the opportunities to coach my team in multiple ways, like how to write better user stories, or how to have better Scrum ceremonies and stuff like that. Um, in order to keep my team focused, I make sure that I cut all the noise from outside, like meaning if there are demanding product owners or demanding senior management, I make sure that I am in between them and the team, and filter out those things for the team so that they are focused on this sprint goals. And I do spend a lot of time upskilling myself and encourage my team to do so. So I mean, in an all, Scrum Masters are like the custodian of the Scrum process, right? So I own the processes, and I educate the team and what needs to be done, how it needs to be done as per the Agile principle uh, and the framework. So sometime back we had looked at the picture, right? So before became a Scrum Master, this is what I used to think, but in fact, a Scrum Master is a impediment remover. He's a facilitator, coach, teacher, mentor, or a change agent who brings in good change in the team, and is actually a servant leader. Right? He's not a manager. He's not a boss. Um, let's talk about the attributes of a great Scrum Master. So something that I have observed in some of the good Scrum Masters around me. Um, first and foremost, having knowledge, good grip on the Agile methodology, having knowledge of Agile methodology and Scrum principles, right? Because as a Scrum Master, you are the guide to the team. My team personally comes up with questions multiple times, saying that, okay, hey, what does the Scrum suggest on this situation? So you have to understand in order to answer them, in order to identify where are the gaps and where you can suggest something, right? Next comes the facilitation. So facilitation skill is not just uh, scheduling meeting invites, or I mean booking the calendar. It's more than that. So making sure that if ice breaking is required, that is done, meetings are started and ended on time, the agenda was covered during those meetings, action items were taken up and then being followed up after the meeting. And situations like if you are doing a root cause analysis, for example, uh, I mean, as a scrum master, you will have arsenal of techniques, right? You'll have to deploy those techniques. So say for example, for the RCA root cause analysis, you would introduce Pareto analysis or 5Y technique to do the RCA better, right? So that's about the facilitation skill. Negotiation skill. So again, this is not I mean, this is pretty common and not a unique to my team, but you would see senior management or a product owner, they would come up with some recurring maintenance work or something else which just came up as a priority. So you have to negotiate within outside your team to make sure that the team is focused, team is working on right things or the priority things as per the business, and they're not kind of burned out, right? Influencing skills. So again, you have to influence within and outside your team. Uh, I'll give an example here. So I remember one of the projects we were working on. So like we have a quarterly release, and just to give you some context on the complexity, we have around 100 teams working on a single product. Okay, lot of teams have their own particular pages or modules or smaller areas, but then they all follow the same architecture, they all use the same common components. Okay, so in this project we had to upgrade the charting library. All right, so charting is something which is very common, used in all the, I mean most of the teams. They might be showing some chart on their page or their module, or they might be creating or letting the user create advanced charting. So uh, when we started the project, we thought it's like a minor version upgrade, and we just took the project and went ahead with that. But halfway, we realized that it's very complex and it is actually touching a lot of things than we originally anticipated. So we had to get buy-in from lot of teams in order to go live, right? And when something like this comes up during the release, you get a lot of resistance. So I use my influence from my Scrum Master community, right? Because we have we had good repo, made sure that they understood the rationale behind what we are doing, why we are doing, and what are the repercussion if we don't do it and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, you have to influence uh, outside the team. I mean, this is one example. You might have to influence your stakeholders in cases to make sure that you deliver values, right? So again, a very helpful skill to have. Next is coaching, and coaching is something wherein you don't have to kind of educate. So right, I mean, coaching is something like where you uh, explain how to find answers to the question, so you don't answer the question directly, right? So that's what the coaching is. And then the conflict navigator. So I mean, as a scrum master, you will have to sense early if there are any conflicts being developed within the team, and not only resolving those conflicts, you'll have to create an environment wherein people are talking to each other and trying to resolve the conflicts by themselves, right? And because of the nature of the work, scrum masters have to juggle between a lot of things, right? So today you might be doing planning for the current sprint, but then you also might be working on the retrospection you had done yesterday and taking some notes from that. You also might be facilitating some of the meetings for the upcoming release. You also might be speaking to or planning to speak or with some senior management and stuff like that. So you'll have to do the context switch between a lot of things, and you have to be a very good at multitasking. So that's another uh, another skill or attribute of a good scrum master, I think. uh, Moving on, $1 billion question, right? uh, like people are asking, am I good, am I a good fit for a scrum master, or can you suggest if I'm I should take up the scrum master role as a career? So in order to answer that, uh, I mean, I would say try to understand the difference between the traditional way of project management and agile way of project management, right? I mean, some of the very basic things or the key differentiators are in traditional project management, uh, you spend a lot of time in doing contract negotiation and rigid planning, right? You plan the entire project end to end for the entire year, you create that plan. While the agile project management is more of customer centric, and you emphasize more on creating self organizing teams, right? In traditional project management, the importance is given on comprehensive documentation, making sure that everything is well written, well documented. Where in agile project management, uh, the importance is given on the working solutions and rapid iteration. Fail fast. If something doesn't work, quickly fix it, get the feedback, make the change, do the next iteration. You have hierarchical business functions in traditional business management, traditional project management, wherein in agile way of life, you have project-based small teams or squads, right? Here in the traditional project management, the manager literally owns the team, right? Many a times, the manager, I mean, the entire team reports to that manager. So he or she is the one who is responsible for their appraisal and their career progression. Wherein for the agile project management, um, the scrum master is a coach. He's not a manager. He's a mentor of the team, right? So very important key differentiator you have to understand, and you have to understand what is your natural style. Are you someone who has spent a lot of time in traditional project management, and for you is it difficult to adapt to the new way of agile project management? Are you someone who is more inclined towards utilizing your power than your I mean, team influencing skills? If that is the case, then you're not a good fit for a scrum pro, right? uh, so you really have to understand what a scrum master does, and how the agile way of project management happens, and I mean, just one piece of advice is just don't follow the market demand. I mean, you might be seeing a lot of job openings for the Scrum Master. So just because there are a lot of demand, just don't follow the uh, follow that and become a Scrum Master. Try understand, do some training, learn, and make up your mind before you. I mean, you have to be absolutely sure of why you are doing it and what is that you like about it, and then make that career change. Um, with that, I would like to thank and I would like to leave a food for thought, right? So, uh, sure, many of you would have heard or might have got this that okay, Scrum Masters really don't do anything. So they just attend the 15-minute Scrum team and that's, I mean, the daily stand up and that's it, they're done. So, there might be a perception that Scrum Masters practice the art of doing nothing, but I hope after this session you would be able to explain what the Scrum Master does, right, to somebody who is new to Scrum. With that, I would like to thank and probably open up for question and answer.
Okay, Dhaval, that was really good insight, and I quite learned a few more things from your experience as well. So thank you so much for sharing those with us. And I do see there are a couple of questions coming in, so let me walk you through that. So we have a first question. The how about in calculating amongst the team member the good culture of continuous self introspect and change and updating? I believe this is from the RC Goel. I am not actually able to get the question from this. So, RC Girl, if you can unmute yourself and ask this question to Dhaval.
This question came from his mentioning about introspect and adapt. And what I feel this should be the culture in every team member to do this as a regular practice. It will help them to upgrade themselves, and also to change their way of working. This is my thought.
Yeah, very true. And I mean, I would say um, apart from Scrum, also this applies to everyone, all the professionals, right? In order to progress in their professional career, everybody has to kind of learn from their mistakes or learn what is new, how to improve. So yeah, I mean, I the point I mentioned was about my journey, how I mean what helped me become a good Scrum Master, but definitely it applies to everyone, and that is the reason I guess Scrum Guide recommends or has this ceremony of retrospection as a team, right? I mean, as a team, also we have to do that retrospection and individually also. So yeah, Mr. Goel, absolutely right. Everybody has to do that to kind of make sure that we learn something and continuously improve on ourselves.
Thank you.
Yeah, that is very true. Not only in a professional, in a personal life as well, we have to learn from our mistake. We need to see. Even sometimes it's better if we learn from another one's mistakes as well.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. As they say,
So,
they are the wise people who learn from others' mistakes, right?
yeah. So we do have a next question. It is like, do you think the Scrum Master can purposefully act in a servant leader kind of behavior to speed up and the faster removal of the impediments? I believe this question is really important.
Right. So, I mean, we have to work as a servant leader in order to make sure that the teams become self-organizing, self-managing, right? So that was one of the example I was sharing that earlier, because I was a project manager. When I kind of become a new Scrum Master, I started taking up status updates. I started getting my hands dirty with the actual task, actual bugs, and the whole intention was to make sure that everything happens fast, nothing is spilled over, nothing is delayed or missed out, right? But I mean, y- what I feel is you have to have that right balance of where you have to do the things and where your team is doing it by yourself. The definitely the the responsibility of removing the impediments lies with the Scrum Master, but you can enable your team to make sure that they also start doing it, and then there is not a bottleneck. So, say for example, again, I'll share a quote or an example from my team, right? So, I had a team member who was not very cooperative, and he was like, okay, I have to talk to this DBA to understand what is the database structure. And I was like, okay, go ahead and talk. And he was like, no, this is an impediment for me, and because you are a Scrum Master, you have to go and talk to him and then get me the answer, right? I mean, so just think about this. So you have to be very careful of what is actually a impediment and what the team thinks is an impediment, and act accordingly. So uh, I mean, the thought process behind servant leadership is, I think, one of the factor to create self-organizing team and self-managing teams.
Okay, I hope that answers your questions. We do have a next question about any techniques, ideas, or thoughts to bring or set the agile mindset in a Scrum team.
I would say training and repetition. So, I mean, you have to reiterate the same things in different ways so that it is inculcated in everybody's mind, right? I mean, it's a mindset. There is no 1 plus 1 is 2 kind of a formula. So, uh, one thing that I have found very helpful and fruitful in my journey is, uh, whenever you are suggesting something, just explain the rationale. If you are saying something, why are you saying it? Okay. If safe is suggesting something, or say for example, okay, just to give an example, uh, safe suggests to have 15 minutes daily stand up, right? So why 15 minutes, and what if we do not follow that? So I had couple of team members who were kind of late in joining those daily stand-ups frequently, and then because of that, what used to happen was, and they were pretty senior in seniority, right? So whenever they used to join team, used to kind of reiterate the whole stuff, and then daily stand-ups used to drag. So instead of a daily 15-minute stand-up, it used to become like a 30-45 minutes call, right? And then, I mean, we used to have that first thing in the morning. So the precious time where everybody is fresh, energetic, that was being lost, right? So you have to I mean, make sure that people understand why we are doing it, and what is the rationale, and what will happen if we don't do it. So I think with that, uh, the the change in mindset will come. It definitely takes time because it's a mindset change. It takes time, but yeah, it will come.
Mm, yeah, it happened to me as well. There were like we had folks joining in, but 5, 10 minutes late in the 15-minute call. So what we did is we started giving them punishment as a fun. They had to turn on their camera and dance, or they have to do some push-ups. So
Yeah,
just to avoid that embarrassment, people started coming on a time, and they said they see the value that coming on a time. It's like having a 15-minute meeting is giving them so much output, like where everyone is and where they need to work on. It was really useful. So yeah, sometimes we have to take a weird ways as well to make sure that we are aligned to the processes.
yeah, so that's a technique, I guess, we can use, at least for this instance.
Yeah, and this is very important, like since the pandemic we are working, everyone is working virtual, so this is a kind of a way as well to have it make an icebreaker, like that kind of help us to be us together. So I believe whatever you think is going to work, not in a negative way, just try it out and see. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
I
I
mean, Sif says fail fast, right? So try it out. No harm in trying something and then reverting it if it doesn't work for
yeah,
you. Right?
yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Dhaval, for your time and this beautiful insight that we have learned so much.